I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At a Senate Banking Committee hearing on Thursday, Senator Elizabeth Warren spoke about affordable housing. The Massachusetts senator said that, quote, our country has faced an affordable housing crisis for decades now. Warren also said that the housing shortage is close to 7 million units. The Democratic lawmaker noted that this supply has also pushed up the cost of rent. Warren took a shot at the Fed over their, quote, aggressive interest rate increases. Take a listen here for more.
And our country has faced an affordable housing crisis for decades now. And we have a shortage now. The estimates are as many as 6.8 million units that we need. Everyone needs housing. There's just not enough to go around. It is a classic case of demand outstrips supply. So this is Econ 101. And that says we're going to end up with higher prices. Indeed, this severe lack of supply has relentlessly pushed up the cost of rent for families, taking bigger and bigger bites out of budgets, as you identified, that are now doubly strained by rising prices on everything else from gasoline to groceries. Rents are up nearly 6% more than they were just a year ago, and higher housing costs are one of the biggest overall drivers of inflation. So to tackle rising costs, the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates at an aggressive pace. But we should be clear about the impact of the Fed's rate hikes on the housing market. Dr. Yoon, the Fed claims its rate hikes will bring down prices for families by taming inflation. So let me ask you, do you expect the Fed's interest rate hikes will meaningfully bring down rental costs for families?
The rental component in the Consumer Price Index, it comprises about 30%, including something called homeowner equivalency rent. Given that there will be fewer buying activity and more renters, rents will be rising. So in fact, one can say at least the rental component with higher interest rate, it will be rising even faster.
So the Fed's actions on aggressive interest rate increases are likely to drive up the cost of rent. And as you say, that's about 30%
Yes.
of the inflation calculation. So it's not going to bring down rental costs. It's not going to bring down the cost of food or gas or other necessities that have spiked because of Putin's war in Ukraine. It's not going to fix supply chain kinks. It's not going to stop corporate price gouging. But by increasing borrowing costs, the Fed's rate hikes will do two things. First, make it more expensive to build new housing, which dampens investment in construction and makes the housing shortage even worse. And second, make it more expensive for families to take out a mortgage and buy a home. The cost of a mortgage, as you've pointed out, has already doubled since last year. So, Dr. Yoon, people renting and buying homes are worse off when the Fed jacks up rates. But are there any participants in the housing market who are relatively better off under these conditions, like big investors and private equity firms?
The multiple offers, intense multiple offers were prevalent throughout last year. Now the multiple offers are far less occurrence, which means that people who are still in the market are able to grab property with much easy access. And certainly the corporate investors would be that category.
And corporate investors, I take it, often are buying for cash?
Cash buyers, which consequently makes it very difficult for the first-time buyer who need to take out a mortgage to compete.
Right. So private equity firms, look, are buying in. They swoop up what little housing is available. They rent it out to families at a premium. In fact, in the first quarter of this year, investors purchased 1 out of every 5 homes that was sold, which is a national record. Ms. Bailey, if private equity and other big investors buy more of the housing stock, what do you expect will be the impact on rent prices on the families that are living in those homes?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. And I think that we can expect that rents will increase, putting more pressure on families' incomes and having them have to stretch their already thin budgets even further. The other thing, though, that often gets missed is that also can lead to gentrification of neighborhoods and displacement of families that live in those neighborhoods, which is also a challenge when equity firms purchase property.
Yes, thank you. The solution to bringing down housing costs for families is clear. Step 1, build more housing. And step two, loosen big investors' grip on the market to make sure that it is families, not just private equity firms, that have an opportunity to buy a home. There's also a third step that the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, should take. Think twice before jamming through overly aggressive rate hikes that are only going to make the housing crisis worse. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing.
Senator